Clips, clips.
And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. So good, you need to hear it twice. Oh, did you? There we go, an evening. One and all, another episode of Ramblings of a Madman's Mind. And tonight we'll be looking at the UN's International Court of Justice. Let me get that right. See all these abbreviations that the Yankee Doodle Dandies love so much. And screws with a dyslexic nut. Anyway, in the evening, one and all, remember, if you do appreciate these rambles from a madman's mind, stick a wee thumbs up. Today, stuff happened. People in funny wigs and funny costumes said funny shit. That if you could keep awake, which was very hard, might mean some shit at some point, at some time. As far as I can muster so far, every side's claiming victory, and it's hilarious to listen to both sides. It's 1984 on fucking steroids for both sides. And I'm not here to curry your favour on the argument, by the way. You make your own mind up, man. And as a famous Roberto who rhymes once said, you can't save anybody if you've got holes in your own boat. So, first port of call to saving the world, sort your own shit out. Then you might be in a position to save fucking one person, 5 people, 10 people, 5 million people, who knows. But unless you can save yourself, the game's a bogey. It's just, it's no projecting. It's a distraction. You're distracting yourself from the real problems in your life. Sunscreen. Anyway, in the evening, one and all, I think everything's happening. Stick a wee thumbs up if you do like this shit. I'm not fully up to speed. That's how all this stuff transpired. I'd say deliberately so. Or I just had to feed myself. So, I want to try and get up to speed, so every day is a school day. And if I can feel it just getting too tragic, is that the word I'm looking for? Just too, like, oh fuck man, I'm like losing the ability to fucking... I'm losing the ability to fucking keep my cool here. I'm out, man, because been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and it doesn't matter how loud you do shout or don't shout, or how much you try and participate, so on and so forth. Nothing fucking changes if you're not in a position to have any power to change that shit. And I'm not. I never have been. And most likely, in the fucking way the universe fucking rolls out, never, ever, ever will be. And remember, you can go and participate in the vote as well. Was the ruling always going to be a whitewash? Well, to me it was a political ruling, in the sense that both sides can run away claiming victory. As far as I'm aware, as I said, I'm not fully up to speed, which I will do over the course of these ramblings of a madman's mind. Remember, it's not the crack cocaine of social media. It's not the YouTube shorts or the shittity talk. Fuck you, shittity talk. This is the suppository of social media. So you need to take a wee while wrestling it up your arse, but once it's up there, it does the damage. So I'm going to say. Some other people would say tampons and vodka. Only certain people will know what the fuck I'm talking about. Anywho, so there is a poll there if you want to get involved with the polls. And if you want to get involved with the polls and you're Polish, let me know, because that is funny. Polls and the polls. Mental. Just can't get my head round it. But what is today's ruling? It was always going to be, well, I don't know, for me, like, what was the sorry, man, I'm actually physically tired, but it was always going to be a whitewash for me. There was no ifs, buts, maybes about it. They couldn't come out. They didn't say Israel isn't doing genocide, but they didn't come out and say they are doing genocide. They went, and this is the best I can decipher it so far. We're hearing wee bits and bobs for different places. But they had to come out and said, we'll do everything we can to make sure genocide doesn't happen. And that starts with writing a letter. Chelsea, you bastards. Ah, fuck you, Chelsea and Aston Villa. I fucked both my coupons. Yeah, bastard. Anywho, so let's get up to speed on this bad boy. And you can let me know what you think. That would be great. So, before we go there, let's go here. This was 17 minutes ago, just before I was going to go live. I find this shit more than fascinating nowadays, because there's a lot of stuff going on in every shithole corner of the globe. And here you have your Western dominated press can't escape it, but they certainly try and talk about other shit before they talk about Chinese ships going unmolested, Russian ships going unmolested, every country in the world's ships going unmolested through the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, apart from British, Israeli and American ships. And regardless of how many times they will show you that, let's see if I don't guarantee it, but it wouldn't surprise me if they've got the training video in this report. They don't appear to have it on first glance, but the training video that's endlessly getting rolled out, and it's a training video, not what they're doing, and it's a missile attack. So was this a rocket propelled grenade for a dinghy? Was this a missile from Yemen? Let's see if they give us any answers. Oil tanker on fire, Gulf of Aden. Operator says the Houthis done it with a missile attack. The movement said it had targeted the Marlin Luanda on Friday evening. Fuck, this is just fresh off the press. The operator told the BBC the strike caused a fire in one of the ship's cargo tanks, and firefighting equipment was being used to contain it. US officials told the BBC's US partner CBS the tanker was hit by an anti-ship ballistic missile, and a Navy ship was responding to its distress signal. So it was an anti-ship ballistic missile. So did that come from Yemeni? Yeah, man. Did it come from Yemen? No injuries? Fuck. Sorry, man. It is the latest attack on commercial shipping by the Houthis in and around the Red Sea. UK Maritime Trade Operators, UK MTO, said that the incident happened 60 nautical miles southeast of Aden. The authorities have been informed and were responding to the latest strike and warned other vessels to transit with caution and report any suspicious activity. So, did this come from like a wee dinghy thing? Is this like brown people in boats with fucking rocket propelled grenades? Firefighting equipment on board has been deployed. The safety of the crew is the foremost, of course it is. The tanker is flagged with the Marshall Islands. Houthi military spokesman, that dude, said the group used a number of appropriate naval missiles and Friday's strike was direct. Okay, seems like it was missiles launched from the mainland then. I may be mistaken. Since November, the Iran-backed Houthis, not the Houthis who are backed by Iran. Iran keeps coming first. I think there's definitely going to be a fucking strike on Iran. Something's going to happen, and it's going to gain enough traction to get enough people to say we need to do something about this. That's disgraceful what happened. Whether what happened is what happened or not, if you get me, because it could be anyway, man. It could be anyway. Don't want to get too conspiratorial. Since November, the Iran-backed Houthis, dozens of attacks. The US and UK launched airstrikes. Just the US and UK. Policemen of the world. America! Fuck yeah! Gonna come and bomb your fucking shit, yeah! Also targeting Iran-backed militia group with sanctions to cut off its financial resources. So that was that. Now, I can do it easier with the BBC. And what I mean by that is use the flux capacitor. They go back in time and get the top of our news. See what they're saying here.
This is the context.
The court further.
Man, woman, or something in between. You decide. Back in the room with the doom. Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Hello, I'm Christian Fraser, and this is the context.
The court further considers that Israel must ensure with immediate effect that its military forces.
I know this is a serious subject and stuff, man, but I'm just thinking a million and one ways to insult just the way. Is that a dude? Sorry, hen, man. I'm poking you with a big jobby stick. But seriously, man, you could, like, I don't know, man, work on your tits a wee bit, get your legs out, make yourself look like a woman. What the fuck? I know I'm a big proponent for the fucking the 90s fashion to come back, but fucking hell, man. And this is me saying this with my hair. That fucking bowl cut belongs in the 90s. Judge.
Do not commit any of the aforementioned acts.
Israel's commitment to international law is unwavering. Equally unwavering is our sacred commitment to continue to defend our country and defend our people.
Sacred commitment, mate. Your fucking country's as old as fucking my dangleberries, man. Fuck's sake. Sacred commitment. Sacred commitment, man, that fucking the Lord Balfour fucking jotted down in the back of a napkin? Huh? I wish I knew the name of the actor that he looks like. Why, the comedy actor.
This is being widely interpreted as a victory for South Africa because the ICJ judges decide.
Fuck's sake, man. What's... Right, somebody needs to tell this poor girl that those glasses. See, I love insulting people's hair and the fact that their glasses, it doesn't do anything for them. But fucking hell, man, that's like Trailer Park Boys in the cunt and that with the big milk bottles, man. Or Janine for Ghostbusters. Although, back in the day, you would have pumped her.
There is a plausible reason they believe that they need to intervene in this case.
Told you Scotland rules the world. A probable reason. But you gotta love this fucking, like, see up here in Scotland, man, there isn't any, there isn't people with their tongues hanging out with spitting all over you when they try and say Roger Rabbit, right? There is, I think we must have bred them out up here. There is no cunt in Scotland that can't fucking roll their R's, right? It's like those daft ass Americans can't say fucking Craigslist. Oh, there's Man City just won. Or just scored a goal in 87 minutes. But fuck you, Chelsea. Fuck my cooking. What did I have though for them? I need to check that later. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to Janine for Ghostbusters.
Joining me on the panel tonight is journalist...
I was talking about how Scotland are the only people in the world that can speak properly. Because we can roll our R's. You've got no Jonathan Ross up here. Paul Ross. Like almost every fucking politician. Like it's almost like it's a necessity to have a speaking impediment. To become somebody down in England.
And author Matthew Syed and Mick Mulvaney, former Chief of Staff to President Trump.
I could cash out and get about £4, I think. My Trump bet's my free
First
bet
though,
on
the
Trump
latest
is up to
BBC
£4.
News. The UN's highest court says the situation in Gaza is catastrophic and at serious risk of deteriorating further. The 17-judge panel ordered Israel to take all measures.
How could it deteriorate further? Something other than no food? No, that would be an improvement. People's homes just getting levelled right, left and centre. I'd love to know the ratio of tanks to bulldozers that the IDF has used. It's kind of a fucking joke, but like the answer would be very, very interesting. Man City fucking just their goal was given. You never know nowadays. You need to wait about half an hour. It's a shitty VAR. But anyway, let's listen to how Israel ordered to prevent genocide. Now, if you've ever heard Jedi mind tricks, this is it, man. Israel ordered to prevent genocide. Right, so they haven't admitted that genocide's happened, but they've went like, here, well, you need to make sure it doesn't happen. What do you call wiping out a fucking race? I even heard some fucking dickheads on the talking heads on TV trying to like put a figure on it. It's not genocide until you kill fucking how many people? I swear. Oops. Anywho, let's have a wee listen.
To prevent genocide, but stopped short of demanding a ceasefire. Vladimir Putin says Ukraine knew a Russian plane was carrying dozens of Ukrainian prisoners of war when it shot it down, killing everyone on board. Kyiv has denied that claim, saying it wasn't informed by the Russian authorities. And King Charles is said to be doing well after undergoing treatment for an enlarged prostate. He was admitted this morning to the private London clinic, where the Princess of Wales is also recovering from.
See all the royal worshippers, man, it's crazy. Oh, how great of Charles to admit he's got a large prostate. Everybody's checking their arsehole now.
Abdominal surgery. A very good evening. The United Nations highest court says Israel must take action to prevent acts of genocide by its forces in Gaza and must let more aid into the enclave to alleviate the suffering. But the provisional ruling from the International Court of Justice in The Hague stopped short of demanding a ceasefire. Joan Donoghue, the president of the court, issued their 29-page ruling, but she did not draw conclusions as to whether there had been violations under the convention. That, she said, will happen at a later stage of the process.
In the court's view, at least some of the acts and omissions alleged by South Africa to have been committed by Israel in Gaza appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the convention. The court further considers that Israel must ensure with immediate effect that its military forces do not commit any of the aforementioned acts. The court is also of the view that Israel must take measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to the members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip.
They have put certain demands on Israel. Most importantly, they are expecting solutions to the humanitarian crisis. They've given the Israeli government a month to show how it is complying with those instructions. Here's the reaction of the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Some have told us that we should mind our own business and not get involved in the affairs of other countries. Others have said it was not our place. And yet it is very much our place as a people who know too well the pain of dispossession, discrimination, state-sponsored violence. We are also a people who were the victims of the crime of apartheid. We know what apartheid looks like. We experienced and lived through it. We firmly believe that following this judgment, there should now be a more concerted effort towards a ceasefire, and negotiations should commence on a permanent two-state solution.
The court said it had made particular note of the comments from the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant and his statement at the outset of the conflict that there would be no electricity, no food, no fuel. We are fighting human animals, he said, and we will act accordingly. In response today, the Defence Minister said he would not be lectured on morality while fighting Hamas in Gaza. Those who seek justice will not find it on the leather chairs of the court chambers in The Hague, he said. They will find it in the Hamas tunnels in Gaza, where 136 hostages are still being held. Here's the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Israel's commitment to international law is unwavering. Equally unwavering is our sacred commitment to continue to defend our country and defend our people. Like every country, Israel has an inherent right to defend itself. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right is blatant discrimination against the Jewish state, and it was justly rejected. The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous, and decent people everywhere should reject it.
Coinciding with that ruling from the UN court came news that 12 people employed by the UN Refugee Agency in Gaza have had their contracts terminated over their suspected involvement in the 7th of October attacks. The US State Department said today that it has put now a temporary hold on any future funding for the agency. UNRWA said any of their local employees who were involved in acts of terror would be held accountable, including through criminal prosecution. Let's bring in then Natasha Hausdorff to get the Israeli response. She is a barrister and volunteers as legal director of the UK Lawyers for Israel Charitable Trust. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. Whether or not Israel agrees that this court has jurisdiction, whether or not it approves of the ruling, Israel is a signatory to the court and to the convention, and therefore it is expected to uphold the court's findings. So how will Israel respond?
Well, indeed, and that is why it partook of these hearings. We've had the response already from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, I'm not a spokesperson for the Israeli government. I'm an independent barrister and practitioner. But I think it's clear that the decision of the ICJ does not prejudge the case. It's not an assessment of the merits of South Africa's allegations. And contrary to some of the media reporting, the court has not made any findings on the way that Israel is conducting the operation in Gaza. It is rather a
right, and she's trying to pass herself off as independent. Can anybody smell a fucking pro-Israeli fucking peace here? I don't care where your alliances lie, right? Pick a side if that's what you want to do. But her bouncing on there and saying, "I'm an independent, forgive me," and bouncing on, right, and one of the first sound bites, South Africans' allegations, right? So straight away, it's not genocide. It's South Africa making allegations.
Adopting a very low threshold and assessment of the plausibility of the claims that South Africa brings to ascertain whether the acts complained of appear to be capable of falling within the provisions of the Genocide Convention. And actually, for that matter, it didn't appear to consider at all Israel's reply to South Africa's allegations. It simply didn't mention the...
Here's the lawyer talk. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, no, it said this. It doesn't say that, and it says this because it doesn't say that. Absolutely bamboozling you with bullshit.
Response and the main provisional measures that the court has ordered are essentially for Israel to comply with the Genocide Convention, which Israel has repeatedly, unambiguously stated that it is complying with, as it is...
I heard this for another fucking spokeshole for the fucking Jew state, man.
Who know too well the pain of dispossession, discrimination, and
land and chambers in the Hague.
Defend our decent.
How will Israel respond?
Assessment. The acts essentially for Israel way its political agenda into this case, a case which the US has called meritless and which Prime Minister Sunak has lamented is completely unjustified.
But the court
and
said
wrong.
today that South Africa's case was
Yeah,
not...
all you need is Sunak in the United States to come up and say blah, 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 and then that's what it is. That's how reality is created, folks.
Without merit, and it has put obligations on Israel, specifically with regards to the supply of aid into the Gaza Strip. It says that there is a crisis and things are getting progressively worse. So how is Israel going to respond to those concerns?
Well, the wording that the court used was to enable that emergency assistance, and of course Israel has been doing exactly that. So if one looks at the provisional measures of the court...
But not to the satisfaction of the court, and quite honestly, not to the satisfaction of the international community. Your closest partners, the United States, is consistently saying there needs to be more aid going into the Gaza Strip.
Well, the US has that emergency assistance, and of course Israel has been doing exactly that. So if one looks at the provisional measures of the court...
But not to the satisfaction of the court, and quite honestly, not to the satisfaction of the international community. Your closest partners, the United States, is consistently saying there needs to be more aid going into the Gaza Strip.
What the US hasn't alighted on, however, is what it is that is holding that aid up. To the contrary, COGAT, which is the unit of the Israeli Defense Forces, which is responsible, the only purpose it serves is to provide humanitarian assistance and to look after the needs of civilians in armed conflict. COGAT has repeatedly reported that the capacity to inspect aid at the Israeli border far exceeds the aid that is going in. So Israel clearly isn't the hold-up here, and it is complied...
Well, with respect, the problem with the distribution of aid is that the way the IDF is spread out through the Gaza Strip and its operations around the main population centres, it therefore is impossible to distribute and disperse aid. And what the court is saying is that something needs to change in order to alleviate the humanitarian situation.
So the court
but,
has certainly not
Hamas
said
is
that in so
evil.
many words. The terminology that it used was general, and it required Israel to enable aid to enter. Israel has been doing exactly that. The reports that are emerging from on the ground in Gaza, and this is from humanitarian organizations as well as the IDF, is that it is in fact Hamas that is hijacking aid and that is preventing it from going to the civilians that require it. It's important, though, in the context of what the court has said, I think also to recognise the dissenting opinion of the Ugandan judge, Julie Sebunite, who picked up on, I think, the political agenda throughout her dissenting judgment. And in particular, although nothing in her judgment was said specifically about aid, the idea that the South African case has adopted the Genocide Convention itself. I mean, what she specifically said about aid is that it is out with the auspices of the Genocide Convention. It was irrelevant to the court's considerations under that. But I think it's important to stress that the reason that South Africa has created this desperate bid to force a case into this context, into the context of the Genocide Convention, and the Ugandan judge likens it to the proverbial Cinderella slipper, trying to make Israel fit the case rather than the case fit Israel. It's important to recognise that that is the key to genocide being alleged here, not that there is any factual basis to it whatsoever. And indeed,
what, 26,000, over 26,000 according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Is that a proportionate response?
That is a very important qualification. One, unfortunately, the court did not give when it reported 25,000.
A fucking numbers game for fucking... Well, it's always a number game for fucking Jews, isn't it, man? They're always first to the abacus and shit, right? But fuck me, man. To be using like, well, genocide is when you get 6 million killed, you know, by Hitler, who moved them all to fucking Israel and Ethiopia. Shh. Shh. That's when it's genocide. It's only genocide when we say so and it's against the Jews or people we like. It's on our side. If you're killing anyone else, take it to the court. The court will say some mumble jumble fucking empty fucking ass bullshit. Then you'll get this little fucking cutie. Imagine getting a good few tequilas down her, man. That'd be some good angry sex. Fucking kill me again.
It refrained from attributing that to Hamas. What that figure does not tell us...
Oh, you can tell she's on the Israeli side because she doesn't say Hamas. She goes... Hamas. It's like I get into trouble for this all the time when I say Loch Lomond, and it's no Loch, it's Loch.
Two very important elements of information. First, the number of combatants contained within that 25,000, which Israel,
did you hear that?
which, you know, whether or
well,
not...
you will well know that a lot of them are women and children because the Israeli government is...
25,000.
Listen to this guy just fucking... That's beautiful. I think that's hilarious.
It refrained from attributing that to Hamas. What that figure does not tell us are two very important elements of information. First, the number of combatants contained within that 25,000, which Israel, you know, whether or not...
Well, you will well know that a lot of them are women and children because the Israeli government has said quite specifically that 70% of the Hamas combatants are still on the battlefield. So that would tell us that a lot of them are civilians.
I'm afraid that is information that we simply cannot have verified.
Just
what
very...
we do
sorry,
just to address that point directly.
Yeah, we were going to get it verified, but the cunt that we were going to verify it with deed. We were going to verify it with that cunt in that building, but it's rubble now. We were going to verify it with this cunt, but nah, he's deed too. And we were going to verify it with this corpse over here. But he ran out of juice. So we can't verify it because everybody that fucking can verify it is dead. And we've no had the time to dig out their corpses They're rotten fucking corpses yet. Beautiful. Fucking lawyers, man. Fucking lawyers. Scumbags of the fucking world,
the missing
man.
part of the equation in respect to the casualty figures is, of course, how many have been killed by Hamas, either directly by Hamas shooting them or bombing them, or indirectly by Hamas or other Palestinian rockets falling short in the Gaza Strip. And the idea that we can set any store by the numbers that Hamas are putting out, well, the lie is put to that, of course, by, for one example, in the...
Well, the best I could tell, last count, man, it was like fucking just over 1,000 Jews to fucking over 25,000 Muzzies. So it's a 25-to-1 ratio. That is a good war machine, man. You know what I mean? You can accept, you can wipe out a... Well, alright, keep going this way. Wipe out 100,000 people, right? That's a fucking that's a fucking town, man. Town, borderline, hair away from being a city. Gaza, well, Palestine, Gaza, the West Bank, small areas of land and forever getting smaller. And one of the last reports I heard they were saying that, I don't know where this was. I don't know if it was in Gaza, the Gaza Strip, or if it was the West Bank. But what Israel's doing now is demolishing hundreds of buildings. Like just demolishing shit to make a buffer zone inside Palestinian land. And what they're doing is they're demolishing these buildings and just turning them into minefields. Fucking mental. It's really crazy, man.
17th of October, the sharp jump of supposedly 500 casualties attributed to the Al-Ahli hospital car park bombing, which has been utterly discredited. That figure has never been revised. So I would urge caution.
Okay, I would only say that in previous conflicts, the numbers that have been reported have been broadly accurate, according to the United Nations. I just want to pick up one point before I let you go. The language, because the court made specific reference to the language that has been used by some of the politicians on the hard right, specifically, specifically the comments from the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, that we are fighting human animals and we will act accordingly, and it expects the government, they said, to punish that sort of language. Would you call out that language, at least accept that point, that there has to be some restraint on the part of Israeli ministers?
Get away with your own public?
Well, I can completely understand why people hearing remarks like that will have misunderstood them, especially because they were presented by South Africa without context and without the important attribution that Gallant was talking about Hamas. Certainly not the Palestinian people. And with that,
she's done that. That's fucking right.
Please scale down military operations. On Tuesday, the president's rally in Virginia was interrupted by protesters several times. So he is acutely aware and increasingly nervous, says this report, about Gaza's impact on his re-election chances. Let's bring in our panel who've been patiently waiting with us. Matthew Sayer, can I get your response to what you've just heard? And how you think this might change the approach of Israel's allies to the way that this conflict is being carried out?
Well, I think, Christian, it's worth just taking a step back. And I think the reason that the atrocities on October the 7th were so horrific is because Iran, and Hamas is a proxy of Iran, wanted to incite an overreaction from Israel. And my own view as the defender, supporter of Israel...
Okay, I'll take your Hamas being a proxy of Iran. I won't disagree with that. And I'll raise you Israel and the Zionist regime that runs that fucking state, that racist apartheid state, is the proxy of fucking Christians. The shitty of London, to be more precise, who Rothschilds are ball deep in. Now, see, big money men, where does their alliance lay? Religion or dough. Just saying. Anyway, let's listen to this big baldy prick, because big baldy pricks always know what they're talking about, because they're big baldy pricks.
Somebody with belief in its right to exist is that Israel has walked into the trap. The misery that is being unleashed upon Gaza, I don't think will destroy Hamas, and it has undermined the growing rapprochement with the Sunni Arab world, the Abraham Accords, the growing dialogue with Saudi Arabia and Turkey that has been put on hold. And I do think that the isolation of Israel is tremendously sad for people who are great supporters of this wonderful nation. Is exemplified by the fact that its strongest ally in America is privately and ever more publicly calling for it to show restraint. And I do think that Israel's security in the long term is being undermined by this war. And this is exacerbated by the sense that Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, who would be in all sorts of political difficulty were the war to cease. He would not win an election. He's not popular in Israel.
Well,
has every incentive, consciously or unconsciously, to make the war be prolonged. And I think that's another factor playing into.
Somebody brought that up the other day, man. Like all these wee fucking fires that are spreading all over the world, right? Over here in the UK, fuck knows what's projected, what's going to happen at our general election, man. We still need to figure out what parties are running and who's running for who and what way is up, right? But the writing on the wall is, a lot of people see it in the new, is Sir Keir Starmer is going to get in, which is mega fucked up. Man City 1-1-0. In America, it looks like Trump's coming in. What would happen, you fool? But I made a video and I was asking a genuine question. I've still not checked it out. I've not even heard anybody talking about it. But what happens if full-scale war fucking breaks out? Does the status quo stay the status quo? Do people move on? Aye, mate, he's fucking got a long nose. Yeah, here, mate, compared to his bottom, compared to his nose, that's no fucking low-hanging fruit. His nose low-hanging is the fucking bottom of his nose. Anyway, what would happen politically here in the UK and in America if we went to war with Russia?
The public perception of this war.
Mick Mulvaney, the US State Department responded today. It says the US continues to believe that allegations of genocide against Israel are unfounded. That's as may be, but this report from Axios, and it's very well sourced, we know who's written it, does suggest that Joe Biden's not going to support this indefinitely. Do you think that the ruling today might make some within the State Department and the National Security Council think even deeper about that question?
I don't think the decision today will cause that. I think that conversation, Christian, is going on for an entirely different reason. It has now for several weeks. You showed a brief clip from the protesters at President Biden's most recent public event. There are not very many Palestinian Americans in the United States of America. It's numbers in the single digits of millions in a country of over 350 million people. However, they are geographically very strategically located from a political standpoint, most notably in the state of Michigan. Michigan is a swing state in the upcoming 2024 election. Again, we elect presidents here state by state, not nationwide. And the Democrat administration has come under tremendous pressure from the Palestinian Americans in Michigan on their current stance towards Israel, even with threats of withholding votes for Joe Biden. There's enough people in Michigan, Palestinian Americans in Michigan, to swing the outcome of an election one way or the other under the right circumstances. So there's a great deal of domestic political pressure. I don't think this report today moves the needle much. In fact, the report here that's getting even more attention is the involvement of the 12 UN employees in the attacks of October 7th. which would obviously tip towards the other side of the ledger.
Yeah, just to make our viewers aware of that. So there are these 12 employees of UNRWA. They are local employees of UNRWA on the ground, and the Israelis say they have evidence they were involved in the 7th of October attacks. The State Department has responded by saying it's suspending funding to the agency while it considers the report, correct?
That's correct. And that will just be fuel to the pro-Israel political forces here, saying that, you can't even trust the UN to do the right job here. You have to back Israel because they're the only ones who...
You can't discount decades of good work.
I don't really know a conclusion here, right? But one thing I do notice, a narrative or a topic that was constantly brought up back at the very early days of Alex Jones and the conspiratardom taking over the world was anti-United Nations sentiment, right? And it never really made sense to me. I could never really grasp it. But then you would have Alex Jones just talking about the blue helmets fucking taking over and coming onto your streets, and the United Nations is going to take over, rah, rah, rah. And then he would point out like the United Nations doing some fucked up shit and some fucking fucked up hellhole and some fucking fucked off fucking place. And now as you see it transpiring, now as I see it, as the way it's transpiring, you see where the anti-United Nations sentiment came from, because the UK, America, Israel, their allies, and that cabal, especially with Russia and China, with a seat at the table, couldn't get things all their own way, and the United Nations still is seen as like the fucking top dude around, because that is the world order, man. The United Nations, after the collapse of the League of Nations, the United Nations was a second stab at the dark. And I've noticed more and more anti-United Nations rhetoric coming out. And I'm not saying that as a supporter of the United Nations or as a fucking unsupporter. I'm saying it as an observation. And see if this continues. See if it continues more and more where the United Nations will be seen as toothless, nae balls, can't swing their dick, can't do anything because what do they call that when you've got a vote that can veto? Russia and China are in there with the veto, you know what I mean? And it's like fucking the UK, America, France against the motherfuckers, but one vetoes it all. Just don't tell the lobster veto.
By UNRWA on the basis of local employees that they're hiring, can you?
No, but what you can point out is this simply will fuel the arguments that many people in Washington have made about these organizations for years now, that they are not aligned with American interests. It's a big step for the State Department to withhold that type of aid, even on a temporary basis. So my point is this, though, Christian, not that it doesn't speak to your original question. That's getting more attention domestically right now than the decision from the International Court of Justice.
Okay, we've plenty more to get through tonight, so we'll leave that there. Coming up, we'll talk about a busy week in American politics. Around the world and across the UK. You're watching BBC News.
Right, I don't know about you, I did enjoy that. Right, look, Deep State Illuminati, man, all the other fucking all the other streams.
Organizers, Dagmar Bosma, very good to have you here.
See, Deep State Illuminati, that's all I'm saying.
Security Council.
Well, let's take a closer look now at what the ICJ decided today in The Hague. The court ordered Israel to
quiet retirement to become the face of a grassroots movement documentary.
The BBC's version, so let's see if we can Doha Arab,
Well, this is the
semi-Arab
news hour
version.
on Al Jazeera. I'm Fully Batibo live in Doha. Coming up in the next 60
Do bear
minutes.
in mind there that
Israel must, in accordance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention.
The UN's top court orders Israel to prevent genocide in Gaza and allow humanitarian aid, but stops short of demanding a ceasefire.
كانت قرارات المحكمة مخيبة للآمال يعني بالنسبة لنا كنا منتظرين من محكمة العدل الدولية أنها تصدر قرارات أشد صرامة من هيك وقف إطلاق النار.
The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous.
A defiant Israel rejects the ruling. Prime Minister Netanyahu vows to carry on his war on Gaza. The Israeli military has opened fire on displaced Palestinians and laid siege on southern Gaza's biggest hospitals.
I'm Rob Reynolds outside the federal courthouse in Oakland, California, where Palestinian Americans are seeking to put the Biden administration's policies toward Israel on trial.
22 GMT, and we begin with an historic ruling at the International Court of Justice. The world's top court did not order an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, but judges have voted overwhelmingly in favor of 6 emergency measures to prevent genocide. These include that Israel is to desist from all acts that fall under the definition of genocide, including the killing of Palestinians. It must also improve the humanitarian situation and report back on its progress in a month. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the fact the court did not dismiss allegations of genocide and proceed with the case is a disgrace for...
What a pile of shite. Can you please stop?
For generations, while Washington called the allegations unfounded. Al Jazeera's diplomatic editor James Bays begins our coverage from The Hague.
17 judges of the UN's top legal body took part in the deliberations on South Africa's case against Israel, brought under the Genocide Convention. Their ruling, read out by the court's president, concluded that South Africa's claims were plausible, that the situation in Gaza was very grave and urgent, and that Israel, by the dehumanizing language of its leaders, had shown intent. She directly quoted Israel's president and its defense minister.
Minister Gallant stated, speaking to Israeli troops on the Gaza border, I quote, "I have released all restraints. You saw what we are fighting against. We are fighting human animals. This is the ISIS of Gaza."
The court's president then read out the judges' decisions.
Israel must, in accordance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, in relation to Palestinians in Gaza, take all measures within its power to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of Article 2 of the Convention.
A broad ruling which included an order that Israel properly deal with the dire humanitarian situation, but there was no specific call for an immediate ceasefire. Outside the court, South Africa's foreign minister gave her reaction to reporters.
In exercising the order, there would have to be a ceasefire. Without it, the order doesn't actually work.
Madam Minister, they didn't specifically call for a ceasefire. Are you disappointed that they didn't specify that?
I have no way that I'm going to say I'm disappointed. I hoped for it, but the fact of delivering humanitarian aid, the fact of taking measures that reduce the levels of harm against persons who have no role in what Israel is combating, for me, requires a ceasefire.
This is just an interim ruling. This case is expected to go on for a number of years, but there is another important landmark in just 1 month's time. Israel has been ordered to produce a report for the judges explaining how it's complying with this ruling. James Bays, Al Jazeera, The Hague.
Well, meanwhile, in Gaza, there's been no respite from the bloodshed and despair in the south. Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis is under siege amid heavy fighting nearby.
Well, you're accused of killing all these people. All we need you to do is write
At least 300 people are trapped inside the hospital and there are no ambulances. The hospital is now out of service after most of its staff were forced to evacuate. And this was the scene in Al-Dahra area of Khan Yunis, where the Israeli military opened fire on displaced Palestinians. Local sources say a number of people were injured, and there are fears that Israeli forces may be preparing to arrest large numbers of Palestinians in the area. Now, the people of Gaza facing relentless Israeli bombardment have expressed disappointment at the UN court's ruling, warning that the ICJ had allowed Israelis to continue killing them.
The International Court was supposed to at least demand an immediate ceasefire, but unfortunately it didn't. We're really disappointed because it's like saying this aggression can continue. It's a pity.
We heard about the ICJ decision in The Hague, and it's not what we expected. Most of the displaced people are civilians, including children. We hoped that the decision would reflect that we're human beings. Human beings being exposed to ethnic cleansing. And we should be treated as such. We thought the court would at least demand a ceasefire.
And Tariq Abouazoum reports now from Gaza.
Man, you can't really deny that
Palestinians today were hearing the ruling by the International Court of Justice regarding its orders for the Israeli occupation forces to prevent genocidal attacks in Gaza Strip and also to allow for more humanitarian supplies. Palestinians, in fact, were completely desperate in terms of the ongoing Israeli military attacks, despite the resolution made by the International Court of Justice, as Israel is expanding its military attacks on different areas across Gaza, especially in the southern part that's supposed to be a safe zone for Gazans, which also exacerbates the humanitarian situation and conditions amid the very limited number of humanitarian supplies being delivered into Gaza Strip, as more evacuation orders being issued for residents in Khan Yunis city to flee, seeking safety to Rafah amid ongoing bombardment also for Rafah district within the past few hours. Tariq Abouazoum, Al Jazeera, Rafah in southern Gaza.
On Friday,
we've got the wee ticket tape there, like, these findings are legally binding under international law. So is not fucking stealing land in the West Bank still going on continuously.
Proceedings at The Hague was the court's first ruling in a case filed by South Africa against Israel. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa applauded the ICJ's ruling. He was in Pretoria with his supporters when the decision was announced. The South African government welcomed the court's provisional measures as a decisive victory for the international rule of law.
We expect Israel, as a self-proclaimed democracy and a state that respects the rule of law, to abide by the measures handed down by the International Court of Justice.
What measures? Write a letter
After
in a
more
month's
than
time?
half a century of occupation, dispossession, oppression, and apartheid, the Palestinian people's cries for justice have been heeded by an eminent organ of the United Nations.
Now, Israel's Prime Minister, meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu, has reacted angrily to the court's decision. He called the mere fact that the court is considering allegations of genocide against Israel a disgrace for the country. Hoda Abdelhamid reports from Tel Aviv.
Extensive damage to
The
civilians.
court did not call on Israel to stop its military campaign in Gaza, but it also did not throw out the case submitted by South Africa on genocidal intent as Israel requested. Instead, the International Court of Justice ordered Israel to take steps to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza, a ruling that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was quick to dismiss.
Israel's commitment to international law is unwavering. Equally unwavering is our sacred commitment to continue to defend our country and defend our people. Like every country, Israel has an inherent right to defend itself. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right is blatant discrimination against the Jewish state.
Going into the proceedings, Israel was hoping it could rely on the vote of the 6 Western judges at the court. But vote after vote, it became clear that the judges were united in their decisions, twice even getting the vote of the Israeli judge on 2 of the 6 provisional measures.
By 16 votes to 1, the State of Israel shall take all measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to members of the Palestinian group.
This is ITN talking about that oil tanker that I covered at the beginning.
So did the streets of Summer. The Houthis encouraged people to be here, of course, but this was meant to be a display of support for them. Cross-border, cross-generational. And none of this fury bodes well for future.
It's a wee baby there with an AK.
We say that our positions are linked to stopping the aggression and siege on Gaza. The Americans are the one who has that decision. Israel moved on to American borders. Nowadays, the one who we target the most in the Red Sea, the American. The bustle of Aden in the south of Yemen, where the Palestinian flag is being proudly flown. A city that Houthis don't control, but it's close to many of the maritime targets of their missiles, including today's. You're free to go. They stopped the Israeli war against Palestine. Muslim brothers, he says. Gaza concerns him more than the missiles landing a few dozen nautical miles from the coast here. Every day there is a new consequence of the crisis in the Middle East. Tonight, off Yemen, a fire on an oil tank. Escalation comes in small steps and big moves.
I'm pretty sure that cunt used to be fucking part of Newsround. News ITN.
Yet there is little doubt that the interim ruling by the International Court of Justice amounts to a damning critique of Israel's wartime conduct and, in particular, the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In its key preliminary findings, the court said it would not throw out the accusation of genocide at the centre of the case, and that the onus is now on Israel to
The regime administration in Israel is the most far-right administration they've ever had. And they're since they killed all the brown people and took over that area of the world, went, it's a democracy! Killed everyone else!
The genocide charges brought by South Africa, but the court's first decision was to turn down.
Right, it's just back onto Harry Potter. And then back onto
In the
Harry
Gaza
Potter.
Strip.
But while the court session was underway, the war continued in Gaza. Israeli tanks targeting the surroundings of El Amal hospital and airstrikes targeting homes where civilians were sheltering. Similar tactics made the basis of South Africa's submission to the International Court of Justice. Israel is under pressure internationally, but at home, public support for the war remains high.
I think there's a lot of double standards placed on Israel. If you look at the UN resolutions throughout the world, so many are in indictments of Israel, and countries that are notorious for human rights violations seem to get by without the same scrutiny. So I think this is par for course for the international community to place this level of scrutiny on Israel.
Israelis overwhelmingly think that the army is using the necessary amount of power in Gaza, and that the high number of civilian casualties is justified for Israel to reach its goal. Even if the court did not call for a ceasefire or for Israel to pull out of Gaza, this is the first time Israel is stripped of what Palestinians see as impunity at their expense. It's not clear if it will abide by any of the rulings or how, but for decades Israel has been saying that it has the most moral army in the world. The International Court of Justice deems otherwise. And now Israel is required to submit a report within a month showing these provisional measures. Hud Abdel Hamid, Al Jazeera, Tel Aviv.
Let's bring in Hamda Salhout, who's in occupied East Jerusalem for us. Hamda, tell us more about the political and public reaction to the ICJ's ruling.
Pretty good TV. Comments do keep me entertained.
Condemnation across the board from Israeli society and from the Israeli Prime Minister himself and many more politicians. The Israeli Prime Minister is calling it outrageous, saying that it is untrue and that it is wrong to bring these types of charges against Israel. He says that they are fighting, quote, a just war and will continue until all of those objectives that Israel laid out in the beginning of the war are achieved. We also heard from Israel's defense minister, who condemned the ruling and said that, quote, Israel does not need lectures on morality. But it's interesting, the Israeli Prime Minister gave two different statements, one in English and one in Hebrew. The English one appearing to an international audience, trying to tell the world that the Israelis differentiate between who they're fighting, saying that they're not fighting civilians in Gaza, but they're fighting Hamas. But there's often been a disconnect between what Israeli leaders are saying.
Right. That's just over an hour I've done, man. Hopefully you've got a wee flavour of what both sides are saying. There's always the truth lies somewhere in between. If there is a truth. Is this all just subjective bullshit? I hear a lot of words, but very little getting said. Israel has to do a report in a month's time to say how they're not committing genocide. A month's fucking time. That's another, what, fucking 10,000 plus dead fucking muzzies, man. Maybe another 500 Jews. And then, I don't know about you, are Israel famous for having lawyers? Are Jews famous for fucking being lawyers? So let's say they give some good ass fucking lawyers to spew their pish. You just heard that fucking Casper the Ghost bitch fucking stick up for, what was it, UK lawyers for Israel or something? What kind of fucking weird ass shit is that? Oh, hold on, there's Donald Trump.
Weeks ago, his lawyer said everything was driven by politics, and she replied to a reporter by saying she had no regrets.
President Trump is leading in the polls, and now we see when we get to New York. But don't get it twisted, whoever asked me that question. I am so proud to stand for President Trump. But I am not proud to stand with what I saw in that poll.
What appears to have driven the huge damages that Trump must pay is the argument from Carol's lawyers that the former president was driven by malice and violence. It was in May of last year that the writer won her civil case after accusing Trump of sexual assault in the Parliament in the 1990s.
Yesterday was probably the happiest day of my life.
Back then in May, she described it as a huge victory against the former president.
This verdict is for all women. This is not really about me, it's for every single one.
Tonight's astonishingly high defamation damages amount to over $83 million. It flows from a federal jury assessing the emotional pain and the reputational harm Trump inflicted on E.G. and Carol. All through this trial, even after the May verdict, Trump has claimed he is the victim. This is another scam. It's a political witch hunt. Even in his video deposition, he had ridiculed her.
It's a big fat hoax. She's a liar and she's a sick person, in my opinion. Really sick. Something wrong with her.
And at one point, looking at a photograph, he had mixed her up with his former wife.
Here.
The person you just pointed to was E.G. Carroll. And the woman on the right is that wife.
This was the picture.
This is only the first of a series of legal obstacles confronting Donald Trump. He must also face multiple other state and federal trials.
My God, man. My God, they fucking... Oh, man, I wish I could show you the picture that the ITV have got him there. It looks like a fucking... Bond villain, man. Redunculous. Anyway, come on, Trump. Bring home the money. And it's hilarious to watch. The Democrats have actually started trying to become Trump to beat him. You know, with their rhetoric, instead of like putting on Jesus sandals and not criticising anybody, now they've started being a monkey in the cage throwing shit, just like Trump. Which has made it highly entertaining, but just brings the whole fucking demeanour down to a common denominator. And it's like, what is it they say with liars and bullshit artists? Don't fucking start, because they'll bring you down to their level and they'll beat you with experience. Raggy? Anyway, so... Oh, now they're talking about Prince Charles getting a finger up his arse and how great a man he is for getting a finger up his arse. Anyway, that's the takeaway at the moment from the International fucking Court of Justice. They're not committing suicide, they're just a very naughty boy. Right, and they're just a very naughty boy. You've not committed genocide. Maybe borderline. So what we want you to do is write a real good letter and tell us how you're not going to continue to commit the genocide that you aren't committing, because we can't say that you're committing it. And then everybody walks away claiming victory. And then, see the mind warp on it, man. Oh, I've heard a few talking heads today coming out, predominantly for the pro-Israeli side. And the way they spin that shit is fucking hilarious, man. Hilarious. So, make sure you get involved in the poll. It will be ending shortly. So if you haven't, get stuck in. Also, if you do appreciate the ramblings of a madman's mind, stick a wee thumbs up. It's much appreciated. It's like a digital hug. Makes me feel warm and cosy. And make sure you subscribe and ask for notifications to keep up to date with all the latest live stuff and jazz. I'm going to nail down a time and a place where I'll always be at one point and just sprinkle whatever I want on top of that. Because that's one of the first bits of advice anybody would give you if you were going to start doing live stuff regularly. And that's time and a place regularly. Something that I'm really bad at. Mr. Anderson, InfoWars. Desist, it is better for you. Allah is only one God. Far be it from his glory that he should have a son, whatever it is in the heavens. And oh fuck, doesn't even make sense to me. Fucking nutbars following that shit. Anyway, as I said, thanks everybody, man. Let's see how this pans out. There's another oil tanker on fire in the Gulf of Aden. Jurgen Klopp is quitting. Liverpool, Rangers have signed 3 fucking players. Almost pretty much in one day. And Stephen Davis is retired. What a day. Today was a good day. So as I said, man, stick a wee thumbs up. Much appreciated. There's the poll there, which I'm just going to end. So there's been 12 votes. Yes, 75%. No, 8%. And don't know, 17%. Was the ruling always going to be a whitewash? If you think of the other if you think of the consequences if it wasn't, and the people whose noses would have been right out of joint probably was never this is as best a result as anybody could have expected. Oh fuck, I'm sorry. This is as best a result as anybody could have expected, I think. I don't even think the United Nations would have had the balls. Well, in fact, I think it's self-evident the United Nations didn't have the balls to come out and call out what was happening. If they didn't want to use the the genocide fucking language, could have like boiled it back a bit and said it's at least fucking ethnic cleansing. That is undeniable, man. You can pull out fucking Israel's own demographics and show the ethnicity of that area of the world changing drastically. And then when it did change to a certain extent, Israel going, hey, we're a democracy. Vote for us. Who? Any cunt, just vote. And then we can say we can call ourselves a democracy. The only democracy in the Middle East. Even though we're in the European Cup and the European Championships and all that. We're no European, we're in the Middle East. Cheese. Anyway, get it. Got it. Good. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thumbs it up. Comments, all that jazz. Sub, bell up. And no cats or cheese or homeless people were molested in the making of this video. Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.